Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode, episode number 44 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at Monaco, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. More so because that was obviously the debut of our Audi Sport partnership. Audi have entered Formula 1. We are finally out of the depths of our debt and bankruptcy, and we are now partnered with Audi, a major car brand entering Formula 1, as they are in real life, but in the game here, a couple of years early, and with our team, the 11th team, on the grid. And it was a pretty monumental moment, because not only does the car now look strikingly different in the Audi red, black and white colours, but now finally we've opened up our HQ facilities and we can make some upgrades. But Monaco was a pretty damn awesome episode for the team as a whole. Sebastian Vettel retook the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Of course, he led briefly after round one, after that very shocking win at Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. How he still did that, I don't know, but he's been Mr. Consistent so far for us in our car, and leads the way by actually quite a decent cushion relative to all the points gaps behind him. A 14-point gap to the McLaren of Lando Norris behind, and then Lando, Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon all level on points in the two McLarens and Red Bull respectively, and then only a couple then to Sainz, and similar gaps down to Leclerc and Sergio Perez. You know, it's mighty fine, and for us it's been maybe our slowest and most difficult start to a season yet on this game. 25 points to our name. Before that episode at Monaco, it was 15. Monaco, a P5, was our best result of the season so far, which is kind of mad considering where our car was last season, and the fact we were fighting for a championship in season 2. To start so slowly has been a challenge and a very odd one, I guess, to watch for you guys at home, but we're hoping we can start to turn things around. And obviously Monaco having our best finishing position yet hopefully is the kind of new kickstart to our season, and this could also be a kickstart. Upgrades. We finally got upgrades after 5 whole episodes. An ultimate chassis upgrade and a major engine power upgrade, which will hopefully really take us up the order on the R&D graph. But we are now limited on the engine department in terms of upgrades, because we actually now have to upgrade our power unit HQ to Spec 3. But that's not going to come for a little while, because we still also have to gain enough money now to renew Sebastian Vettel's contract in the contract period, which is going to be at least just over 10.5 million to do so. I think, now that obviously our facilities are all open and we're maybe getting better results, that will also mean our sponsor bonuses are bigger, so we could actually, manage to get enough money like that within the next episode or two. But then on top of the 10.5 million, we then have to go and actually earn enough money to get that HQ facility upgrade. And the next one that we could potentially do to get us to Spec 3 costs 11 million, which is quite a lot. So basically double the amount we need to afford the contract renewal with Sebastian Vettel. So you can see the timeline of opening up more upgrades on the engine side of things, and also the aero as well, because that's only Spec 2, maybe a little bit longer. So even though we have opened ourselves up now to having some upgrades finally, there still might be a bit of a plateau in progress in the middle part of this season, just because of our reduced cash compared to the AI, where they have boosted cash, of course, ever since the start of this career mode. And in reality, I thought we would actually have a much bigger leap up the order, but if you look at the R&D graph here, with an ultimate and major upgrade, it's not as dramatic as I was hoping for. But to be fair, we are still very, very close now to Ferrari, Alpine once again, and McLaren and Mercedes. Red Bull continue to make upgrades, not at the same pace that they did into Monaco, but continue to bring upgrades, because of course course, even though they are the fastest car on paper, as a team, they've been very operationally poor. There have been some mistakes from both Albon and Verstappen in the races. Verstappen himself just had, as you probably agree, some horrendous luck so far this season, which means they're yet to win a race despite having multiple pole positions. But even though I said I was left a little bit taken aback with the lack of, massive step up to leapfrog maybe Ferrari and Alpine and get ahead of Mercedes and McLaren like I was thinking so, you've got to remember the scaling of this Season 3 R&D chart. If we look at Season 2, I mean, literally, if that was an upgrade we did in Season 2, we would have said we're level pegging with all of those teams concerned. So in reality, it's actually just going to be down to each individual driver, myself and Vettel, to make the difference. Because really, Merc, McLaren, ourselves, Ferrari and Alpine, we're all pretty much actually on top of each other on the R&D graph. It's only because we're so zoomed into that performance index that there seems to be a little bit of a difference. But in reality, actually, if you're looking at it, it's going to come down to us who can do the better job. And so far this season, I've got to put my hands up and say Vettel's absolutely had me. He's been the one comfortable in this new car in Season 3. He's been the one in the finest form, and he's been doing the job, and that's why he's leading the championship. And now with these upgrades, could he go and do even more? Finally, will these upgrades allow me to feel a bit more comfortable in the car and get a bit of confidence and get a groove going when it comes to Saturday, especially because we've been lacking a lot of one-lap pace versus Sebastian. But then also in the races, to be fair, we just need a bit more luck because Monaco, even though that was our highest finishing position, we actually got unlucky because we got caught out by the safety car and Vettel jumped me back in that race to still finish ahead of us. And then the previous two races before that, it's been 0 points with issues out of my hand. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping finally we can get a little bit of luck, but also just make our own luck by performing better on this Saturday first and foremost. So Q1 was a formality for us. We're through, comfortably through, but someone who did trip up, and we've been having this pattern so far this season of at least one major name in one of the top teams tripping up. This time it was Pierre Gasly's turn to fall foul. Don't know what happened with him, just traffic potentially, but he's knocked out of Q1, and so we'll have to try and make his way up the order come Sunday. Into Q2 now on our first flying lap, and it is still going to be hard work to make sure we get through into the top 10 shootout. So far this season, it hasn't been easy work, and it still won't be because just of the amount of teams you have. We have, 6 teams there vying for the top 10, so it's just not going to fit in. Obviously we've had a few instances where a few big names have dropped out of Q2, even including ourselves, but Verstappen has fallen foul of it. But, you're always going to get a couple of people that are disappointed just because, 6 teams won't fit into only top 10 top positions in Q3. So can we be one of those top 10? Right now we're just out of it in P11, but across the line, and just by a whisker, we get through like 1/10 difference there to Pit Piastri and get into the top 10. And once again, Verstappen is knocked out of Q2. I don't know, clearly now, all the bad luck he has had so far has put a denter on his tangible focus number and just the general momentum as well that we know the AI can have. And he's out again, so that'll be disappointing for him, frustrating. One Mercedes makes it through as well, and that's Hamilton this time, so to my surprise, because so far Russell's definitely been the strongest silver arrow, but Hamilton makes it through, and it's a very strong showing for Sergio Perez in the Alpine, quite some way ahead of Lando's time in second place. So I feel like that's a little bit of a weird simulated time for him. So let's actually get into the top 10 and see properly what everyone's got, because I feel like that was one of those cases where the time was sped up all for whatever reason right at the end of the session. So here we are then in the middle of our first flying lap in Sector 2, Albon right ahead, and if we're actually lucky we could grab a little bit of a long range tow if we stick with him in Sector 2, although this is where the AI are getting a little bit of time on him. We're gaining it back in the last sector. Albon goes and sets the fastest lap of this session so far ahead of Norris. We're in third ahead of Hamilton and Ocon so far. By the time we start our second flyer, we're down to P6 ahead of Schumacher and Hamilton. Albon and Norris P4 and 5. So we've got 3 other cars who have gone ahead of them. I believe one of them is Sebastian Vettel. Leclerc is right up there as well. He's actually right behind me. Annoyingly, I might be helping him a little bit because he's so close to me. I might be giving him some slipstream, so I try and break that as much as I can. Purple first sector, green the second. It's only going to be just under 2/10 gain though overall, and that's just going to solidify our position in P6. Leclerc went a little bit better, but I don't think a huge amount. But Sergio Perez in the Alpine gets pole position. It's not quite the same impressive feat as he did in Q2 with a 7/10 to P2, but still, actually, that proves me wrong a bit. He had some genuine pace to get pole, and he's massively ahead of Ocon, his teammate, by 5.5 there. So fair play to the Mexican driver. And so just like in IRL Singapore, it's Perez versus Leclerc potentially at the front of this race. The Ferrari doing very well to get in the front row. But again, Sebastian Vettel pulling out more time, extracting the maximum from our car, gets on the second row alongside the McLaren. But we're so close in terms of the actual lap times, I'm thinking, maybe that was just one corner could have done it for me and lost a bit of time, because we were purple first sector, but just didn't gain enough in the second or third sector to get up any higher. So hoping for more in the race, and hopefully we can go forwards from here rather than backwards in P6. And for Vettel, well, from P3 with the Ferrari and Alpine, not the familiar teams ahead of him, he could have a good one as well. Let's go to Sunday.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. The Baku city circuit measures roughly 6 kilometers, and it's made up of 20 corners and 2 DRS zones. The circuit winds around the narrow city, through the old town, and even brushes against the city's medieval walls. However, as beautiful as the setting is, this track is also a ferocious technical challenge, where the smallest of mistakes could lead to a catastrophic consequence for any one of our drivers. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Norris, Alex Albon, the owner driver, Ocon, Mick Schumacher, Hamilton and Carlos Sainz, Russell, Liam Lawson, Kevin Magnussen and Tsunoda, Schwartzman, Stroll, Pierre Gasly and Valtteri Bottas, Drugovich, Oscar Piastri, they've taken a grid penalty, Théo Pourchaire and Max Verstappen completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Going to be an interesting one today to fully see where our car is at now with these upgrades, but also because Monaco is a very unique circuit. The safety car played a massive factor in Vettel jumping up the order. So hopefully Azerbaijan, even though a safety car could be very likely with it still being a street circuit, generally compared to Monaco, it will give us a better indication of maybe what the raceability of our car is like, and if those upgrades, the chassis upgrade and the engine power one, work out for us in a straight line. Because I feel like overall we've been losing a decent time just out of corners with pure engine power, and like we saw in that episode, before this upgrade, our engine power was the worst on the grid. By a small margin, but was the worst on the grid. So now with the upgrade to pure engine power and also the weight redistribution just might make the car feel a bit better in the corner, especially for me versus Vettel, because Vettel's not really seemingly had that much of an issue. But for me, you guys have been seeing, I've been having so many snaps of oversteer and understeer here and there, and I've just generally felt like the car's not really come to me that much in Season 3 so far. So could this be the start of us getting a bit comfier in this machine And can we build on what was our best race result so far at Monaco last time out and go from here and really kickstart our season? I guess we're about to find that out in our second only ever race with this partnership with Audi Sport as we go to 5 red lights for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Lights out here in Baku, and we're underway. It's a good start for us. A slow one for Lando on the hard compound tyre. Albon, an electric start round the outside of Vettel and the McLaren to get up into P3. Leclerc tried to get P1 off Sergio Perez, but the Mexican holds strong into turn 2. A little bit awkward with the curb on the inside. We're able to nip past the McLaren and get up into P5, getting a nice slipstream off Sebastian Vettel. Getting close, but just not got enough speed to shoot one down the inside. But Ocon will, as he overtakes the McLaren and has a little lunge on the inside there, but ultimately has to stick in behind. But it's a quick start for both Alpines as there's a straightaway yellow flags. Robert Schwartzman is out of the GP, and it's going to be a full course safety car. It was a virtual one, but upgraded to a full course safety car for this very awkward collision. Very similar one to the one very similar one, actually, to the one Max Verstappen had in Monaco. And this is why the full course safety car is called out. Is Verstappen and Piastri both got caught up in that. Piastri with a grid penalty, so him and Verstappen was starting at the very low end of the field. Gasly as well, of course, after being knocked out in Q1. So all 3 of them in the Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull trying to make their way through. But an early safety car then to just cool things off. But at the lead, it's Perez from Leclerc, just as it was in real life in Singapore. Kind of very neat to have that similarity, but the big difference is Sergio Perez is in the Alpine, doing an insane job right now to hold that first place as we go green now off the safety car. Can we jump Vettel into turn 1? No, because Vettel dive bombs Albon, catches him napping a little bit. The two are now side by side. Vettel loses out a little bit of time by being pinched in by the tie-Brit driver. The two still go side by side. I tried to make a little move on the outside, but it just didn't work out for us. Got very awkwardly pinned in, and actually now we've got Ocon for company behind, lurking around in the Alpine. So it seems like the Alpine team just have some really good straight line speed, or maybe they've set their car up for that at Baku with Perez in the lead, but Ocon looking very, very punchy indeed. But eventually at the end of the lap 4 onto lap 5, we're going to settle in, and now we've got a good run on Vettel. We're going to dump a lot of our ERS, and maybe Vettel overused his ERS trying to attack Albon, because we're going to get him in a straight line without DRS usage. Just power past him on the right using a lot of our battery there. So you can see that the kind of for the first time, you don't really see it too much with the AI, but I think clearly Vettel used a bit too much battery maybe having a go at Albon, because we really did waltz by quite easily as if we did have DRS activated. And now trying to chase down Albon in the Red Bull, getting very, very close to his gearbox on that left-hander there. Pretty much a pixel, I think, between my front wing and his rear. And now on the following lap, we finally now might have a good run through the final sector onto that very long main pit straight. Vettel, by the way, that you can see clearly is still tucked up right behind me, well within DRS as well. So this is more an overtake also, just to put a car between me and Vettel to stop him re-overtaking me. Such is the performance level of the 4-time world champion in our machine. We need to put a car between us as Albon squeezes us on the left-hand side, but we're going to keep our foot in down the inside of turn 1. He's going to have a go to try and keep it going on the outside, but we always had the better racing line through that exit, and now we've got some clean air to try and reel in Leclerc on the hard compound. We saw how slow Lando in the McLaren was on the hard, so we should be able to do that if we can try and pull away also and allow Vettel to attack Albon. And within 2 laps, lap 10, we are there, well within a second of Leclerc, but now the full course safety car's out, and Verstappen is out of another Grand Prix. This man literally has 0 luck, and it's because of a massive shunt from Yuki Tsunoda, and Verstappen is collected by Tsunoda. So it's the two from Monaco who get caught up again in it, Tsunoda and Verstappen. But that is just so unlucky, because the Williams ahead of Verstappen managed just to nip by Yuki, but Verstappen got collected by him. So Christian Horner is going to be furious with that, because obviously it's the junior Red Bull team as well collecting on the top cars there. But I think we can all agree, in this career mode series of mine, Verstappen is facing the same bad luck that Hamilton's AI has always had on F1 2021 and 2020, where after like the first 2 seasons, you know, Hamilton's AI always just dropped off a cliff in terms of, you know, luck, and then also just focus and skill maybe, and is that what's happening to Max Verstappen's AI? I wonder. Well, we're going to have to kind of see, only time will tell, but I feel like it's all the hallmarks of what we were seeing with Hamilton's AI on last year's game, on this year's game with the Dutchman. But under the second safety car now, we're coming in for our pit stop, because we may as well, will give us a strategic advantage on anyone else who doesn't come in. Unfortunately, it means Vettel will have to pit in behind us and double stack, but we were ahead of him on circuit, so that's just the way it goes basically with these kind of things. Obviously, we have to endure that ourselves versus Vettel when he was ahead of us, so in fact, getting ahead of him on circuit really paying out dividends there. But to be fair as well, at the same time, he also lost out in the pit because there was a mistake. It was a slow pit stop on the rear left, so we've fallen behind Albon in that whole arrangement. So even though we will have a strategic advantage by pitting in, a mistake from our pit crew means that both me and Vettel lost a bit of time in the pit. So we're behind Albon, and Vettel's now found himself behind the 2 Alfa Romeos on circuit, who are yet to come in. But irrespective of those annoying pit stop issues, we will have an advantage over anyone who didn't come in, because we can go to the end now on the hards, and we're all bunched up, of course, under this restart. And speaking of, we're going to get going very soon, going to green across the line, lap 13. Albon squeezes us, but we're going to try and dive down the inside to get the overtake straight away done back on the Red Bull car. Meanwhile, Piastri makes a good move on Sergio Perez, and the Ferrari gets ahead. Now, Piastri, I don't think he's come in yet, so on worn hard tyres, he's going to hold up Perez. And remember, Perez was leading the race ahead of the other Ferrari, Leclerc, who's now leading himself because he didn't come in either. So this is a chance for us to have a go at the effective race leader, and who will take the lead, because everyone else, they're going to lose out now because a bunch of them come in for their pit stops, and now we're up into P5, Perez P4, Piastri, and the only other 2 cars ahead of us are Leclerc and Lando Norris, and they're going to come in eventually. So this is basically the battle for the race lead. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere now, we've got a great opportunity to actually take the effective race lead, because once Piastri comes in, this is going to be the fight for the front. But Perez going for a move on the Ferrari, I think he knows as well that he needs to get by, because Piastri is basically like a mobile chicane right now, and a great wall at stopping Perez making any further progress and pulling away from me. You know, on out-and-out pace, it looks like Perez has had control of this entire Grand Prix so far, so this is our best opportunity to get ahead, and we'll do it even before the long stretch down the main pit straight. We get ahead of him just at the entry of Sector 3, and we've got a lot of ERS also in the tank to try and push away now, because annoyingly we overtook him before the DRS line. Perez now has DRS off us, and Piastri was too far ahead for us to get any off him, so we are a bit of a sitting duck. That rear wing will stay closed, and Perez will close up as now Leclerc and Norris are in. So Piastri leads the way, is behind. There is some fighting for Esteban Ocon. The second Alpine has arrived on the scene. Had to go at Albon, didn't come off, and now Vettel's closed up. So all of a sudden, the top 6 are very close together, and there goes Perez now. Both of us with DRS, but that Alpine seems so quick in a straight line. He dives down the inside. We're now side by side through the left-hander. We're going to have to really brake late to lunge down, get over the curb, and it's so fine as both of us are so close to the wall and making contact. But we'll shoot this round the outside and then get the rear end stepped out to just defend against Perez. And look at Albon go. Albon switched back from left to right to get both of us, because he was able to get on the power so much earlier. So in a flash, Albon's overtaken both of us to get up into what will be the effective race lead, because that Ferrari is coming in on this lap or the next for sure. So Albon, though, what a steal for him. Up into P2. I was too preoccupied trying to defend and, you know, squeeze out Perez, get the elbows out. I just left the door wide open for Albon to get through there. So the Red Bull into second place. We're third, followed by Perez, and Ocon now is right there as well with Vettel, and also, to be fair, also behind the cars Bottas, Magnussen, not too far off. So all this fighting is slowing all of us down and allowing cars behind to close up. But can we now re-overtake Albon, or will Perez annoyingly have a go at us first and foremost? Because that Alpine seems so quick with DRS open, even if we have DRS ourselves off Albon, who comes in. Albon comes in. Has he got damage? I don't know, but Perez does go for a move down the inside. It's a real late lunge for the Mexican, and we're now neck and neck, and Ocon is coming through on the outside, and we're going to get pinched in by both Alpines, squabbling. Ocon wanting to get that position and then have a go at P1 himself, because he now goes to overtake Perez. Vettel's now overtaken us because we were so slow off their left-hander. I don't know whether we got damage or not off that squeeze in, because we basically got pinced in by both left and right Alpine cars. So I asked my engineer for vehicle condition checks. He says there's no issues. He just talks about the tyres. So generally speaking, that means there's no issue or no damage to the front wing. So we're very lucky to come away from that pincer movement with no damage. And now the two Alpines are fighting at turn 1. Ocon versus Perez, and Ocon's taken Perez wide. The two Alpines have made contact, and Ocon has put Perez in the wall. Safety car out for the 3rd time now in this race. And can you believe it? Ocon and Perez, it is all boiled over just as it did those years ago when they're both at Racing Point, or as it was known then, Force India. Ocon and Perez have come to wars. It's Alpine Civil War. Perez out of the race, Ocon all the way down the order. It's now a 1-2 for Vettel and myself. It looked like Esteban Ocon locked up on the inside. Perez was adamant he was going round the outside, and the two just went straight on then. Ocon still trying to make the corner, and that's why he's actually somehow survived this, but Perez was just left to be put straight in the wall. And now Albon is out of the race under the safety car on lap 18. I assume that means that must be for a mechanical failure, unless I'm mistaken. And yeah, it looks like he's going very slow in P19. So actually, in the end of it, for whatever reason Albon pits just before we overtook him, it wouldn't have mattered, because this would have been a predetermined DNF by the game, a mechanical failure. So he would have had this retirement no matter what happened to him in this race. So kind of maybe better he didn't have this from like P1 or a top 3 position. He is out, engine failure, up in smokes. And so it's all kicked off here in the last third of this race. Lap 18 on to 19. It's a 1-2 for our team. Vettel leads. We're in P2. Kevin Magnussen, of all people in the Williams car, is in P3. 4-5 for Aston Martin. So we've got 3 cars behind us that probably won't be giving us any trouble. So this is going to be our best chance so far this season to get a race win. And of course, it also just may be the best chance we have of finally beating Vettel in a race in Season 3. Here we go. Green flag racing onto lap 19. We're going to fake to the left, go to the right. Vettel locks up, but won't go straight on, but will be slow off the exit at turn 1. We're there on the outside, but we're wheel to wheel into turn 2. He'll hop the curb. We switch back from the outside to the inside, get the better exit off that corner. It's a drag race now to the next left-hander, but Vettel puts up a very stern defense. Both of us with full ERS batteries, of course, under the safety car, but we are gonna get through. We have the better racing line, and we're up into P1. Only just, though, because that was mighty damn fine there, but we are up into first. Vettel's still in P2, though, and like I said, Magnussen, Stroll, Pourchaire, all of those 3, they're not gonna really make a dent on us. Who could make a dent is this man we're focusing on now, lap 20, Leclerc on the mediums. Remember, he started on hard, so now he's on fresher mediums, and he's gonna make a bold dive on the inside of Stroll and K-Mag. He's already got Pourchaire, and he basically forces himself up into P3 by carving a path through there. I'm quite surprised actually he's not actually got damage on his front wing, and it doesn't look like he does because he goes through the corners and gains time on Magnussen, so I don't think he does. So could Leclerc now be the dark horse in this race? Could he spoil the party for Vettel or myself in 1 and 2? Could he ruin the 1-2 and then even go and snatch on the win? Because those mediums are going to be pretty damn good for him, so we're going to have to see. But behind Magnussen, Stroll, Vettel, Schumacher had a poor chair, the 2 McLarens, and then Piastri rounds out the top 10. Both Mercedes have had the quietest race I can remember from memory this season. Both of them outside the top 10. We've hardly seen them this entire race. But one person we've seen plenty of in this race, and we just can't quite shake on lap 21, is Sebastian Vettel, the championship leader, remember, and he's still well underneath our rear wing, looking to pressurize us, and we're going to feel the pressure as we have a massive moment. It's a mistake for us, and Vettel is through up into P1. A lot of oversteer with the tyre wear kicking in now on the hard compounded tyre. We did well, to be fair, not to get that into a full spin. So easy to do on F1 22 on this game, because the rear end just steps completely once you start rotating the car. So we actually did very well to catch it and keep this car going, and we've done well to actually stick with Vettel through that last sector, and we're going to have a chance to re-overtake him and make amends for that mistake. But yeah, this is, it's all down to those little details. So far this season, Vettel really hasn't made any mistakes. We have, but this one we can correct as we get back into P1. We saved also a bit of ERS there, because I knew I was going to get the overspeed from the rear flap opening, so I saved some battery to then use on the next straight after this left-hander to make sure we stay ahead of Vettel. He doesn't get a second chance to maybe go for a move, and instead now on towards lap 23, the Ferrari, remember on the fresher medium tyres, will now have a go. He's closed up to Vettel. The 2 former Ferrari teammates going to squabble into turn 1. Vettel struggling a little bit for pace, it would seem, now on the hards, and Leclerc is through into P2. So now this is worrying. Leclerc 1.1 seconds behind us. That little squabble though has given us a little bit of hope, because if I can stay ahead of him and not allow him to get in the DRS, that might just be enough to keep the P1. Otherwise, that Ferrari's going to be mighty quick. Lap 23 onto 24 in the last sector. Vettel keeping with Leclerc, and we're still 1.2 seconds ahead of Leclerc. So this is how it is now on lap 25 onto the last lap of this Grand Prix. Our plan has so far worked. We've just had enough speed to keep Leclerc out of our DRS range, but as the laps have gone on, that's gone harder and harder to do. In Sector 2, he's gaining a lot, and he's only 1.1 seconds now behind us. 1 second as we get into the second turn, so he may just have DRS by the end of the lap. So that's why I'm not overusing ERS you're seeing on this straight, because I want to save it for that last section, because I'm not losing another win at Baku in the last sector, just like what happened in Season 2 when Albon got us on the last lap. So here we are then, into the final couple of corners of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Leclerc is within 1 second. He is going to have DRS, but we have well over 50% battery to just use all the way down this straight. And so we're going to hold firm, we're going to hold off the pressure, and we're going to come through for our best result yet of this season. And it's the maximum you could hope for. It's the win at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's a win for the first time for Audi in Formula 1. That is a great victory. I mean, it was handed to us a little bit with the craziness from the Alpines, etc., but you got to just beat who you can in front of you, and today that was Vettel and Leclerc.
So ends another Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A fascinating race and a well-deserved victory. What do you think it was today, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition?
Well, staying out of trouble was probably the most important factor here. In a race where half the field weren't classified at the checkered flag, you were able to guarantee a good result by basically keeping the car running. With their pace and a decent strategy as well, I don't think the race was ever really in doubt.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way onto the podium now.
There's something about Baku and the My Team Career Mode team because, you know, we won in Season 2. Albon won it ahead of me. It was a 1-2 then, not quite the same. 1-3. Leclerc ruining that party a little bit, but, you know, he was on the medium, so it was always going to happen potentially. But I'm so glad we held him off. It was crucial to stay out that DRS, and we did so just until the last lap where it was too little too late for the man in Ferrari. And so that's going to make it a 5th different... And so that's going to make it, yet again, a different winner in Season 3 so far. Every single race so far, we've had a different winner. So quite, you know, quite a feat in this season. Not quite the record, I think, that we had in F1 2021, but we'll see about that. But a great victory to really now officially kickstart our season after such a slow affair in the first 4 rounds. 10 points at Monaco, full 25 here today at Baku, gets us up into P5. It's another howler for the likes of Red Bull with 2 DNFs. Of course, Verstappen crashed out of the race, and then Albon retired with a car failure. And then what a shocking race it was for Alpine. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot, and, you know, stern words probably needed for both Ocon and Perez, because they literally did the cardinal sin: don't crash with your teammates, and they did that from the lead and a 1-2 in the race. Insanity. So we take the lead in the Constructors' Championship ahead of McLaren, but, you know, both McLarens have been very high up in the standings, so looks like they're going to be a tough cookie to maybe crack, but nice to be ahead of them and have that margin. But Sebastian Vettel still leads the way, and he actually grows his lead in the championship because he still outscored most drivers today. 19 points now to Leclerc, who climbs up into P2. So can anyone match Sebastian Vettel? Can I match him? We've done it once. This is the first time I've beaten Vettel all season long, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's one race. We go to Canada. Usually happy hunting grounds for me, but, you know, got PTSD from last season where I DNF'd out that one fighting Albon, so we'll see. But till then, guys, if you have enjoyed this one, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.